Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday evening to you all. Hope you guys are having a fantastic evening out there. Have had yourselves a great day and having a great work week so far as we're nearing the end of it, almost to the weekend. Got you an update this evening on what we talked about yesterday evening. Just give you some revised information. Talk about the Euro, talk about the GFS, talk about the storm ongoing right now. And then there's another system that's going to be cranking up here in the next 48 hours, well, 36 to 48 hours. That is system number one. Of course, I'm not going to call the system ongoing right now system number one. There's really two systems we're watching. One that's going to really get going across the middle to eastern parts of the country, the middle part to later part of this weekend, and then early part of next week. And then there's another one that cranks up about 2 days later and takes a similar track, but we still have questions on the exact track of both of these storm systems. But I can tell you the first one, obviously it being a little bit nearer in time, if you will, we have a little bit more higher confidence on what's going to happen with it. But listen, folks in the Northeast, I've been seeing a lot of comments. People are upset. They just think winter's over. We're never going to get snow again. It's amazing the amount of comments that I'm seeing that just people, I don't know if they literally believe they're never going to get snow again. I hope y'all literally don't believe that. But chances are, depending on where you live, unless you live in Florida and portions of Florida, you are going to see snow again, guys. But I understand, it just seems like winters aren't as great winter weather-wise as they used to, maybe. And trust me, I feel you. Here in Columbia, South Carolina, up until last January, literally about a year and 2 days from right now, we had gone 8 years without seeing 1 inch of snow. And I know Columbia, South Carolina isn't certainly a city that sees a lot of snow, but we used to almost seem like there for years and years we at least would sniff a chance to see some flurries. But for 8 years, we didn't see 1 inch of snow or higher. So I get it, guys. It's frustrating for a person who's passionate about winter weather. But keep in mind, not everybody enjoys winter weather, and I try not to talk so biased on it. But we're going to try to figure this out for you folks. You never know. But I think the first system's a lost cause for the I-95 corridor. I think it's going to be all rain. But as soon as you work, maybe an hour or two inland, it could be snow. And the Ohio Valley needs to watch out. I'm talking about you two, Chicago, the Midwest, maybe areas of the South Central U.S. The Southeast, I don't like the chances for winter weather with these two systems. I don't. I think there'll be a brief, literal 2 to 3 day window right at the end of January. And then I think that the first week or so of February, we start to really get well above average temperature-wise. That's just my gut feeling. But let's go. We're about 3 minutes into this and we hadn't even wrapped the intro up. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that, guys. It goes a long way and I really appreciate it. This January is nothing compared to last January as far as growth, even though I had significantly less subscribers. So I really appreciate people who continue to tune in. Regardless, like the video if you like it. It helps to get these videos out there. And more importantly, if you folks got anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put those in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others can do so too. If you ever thought about joining my channel, the join tab's under the video. I have 2021 incredible members that support me every month, and I really appreciate you guys very much. Y'all are truly the difference makers in this channel, and it goes a long way, so thank y'all. Watches and warnings out there. Let's get rolling here. Winter storm warnings for only literally like 2 handfuls of counties out here. You got several counties in southeast Colorado, 4 counties in western Kansas. Winter storm watches up where they're still questioning how much snow could potentially fall. I think this is going to be a pretty small winter storm for you guys out here, relatively speaking, where I think who does get hit by snow could get several inches of it. And we'll talk about that in the very beginning of this video. Still ongoing snow in the northern portions of the Mid-Lake and the Great Lakes region. And then an ongoing winter storm in portions of southern Maine, the coastal regions of Maine. Somebody corrected me this morning about me calling these areas of Maine up here the down east areas of Maine. So I apologize. I thought I was saying it right at first, but apparently not. But thank you for correcting me. I'm all for that. If you can manage to do it respectfully and not rude. Some people are just rude, but we all know that. There's rude people in this world. But winter weather advisories up for the interior Northeast, and this does include Boston. So it's going to be interesting what happens in Boston. So let's actually talk about the Northeast, and let's say what's going on right at this moment. Boston is literally the rain and snow line. If you go into the northern suburbs of Boston, up near the New Hampshire, Massachusetts line, you got winter weather falling. But if you go from maybe the immediate Boston area point south, there is a report of snow on the coastal regions of just southeast of Boston. There is a report of snow, but man, you don't have to go far, northwest of town, and it's snowing. And of course, just west of Fitchburg, You're seeing rain reported at 6:05, so that was about 10 minutes ago or so. But then some sleet just north, and I mean they're reporting just rain at 6:08, just west of Manchester, New Hampshire. So you're still dealing with some rain. But listen, cold air is going to crash through, and I think you will have a window tomorrow, Boston, really to just switch to all snow. It might drop an inch or two. It might. We'll see what happens here. But let's talk about the HRRR model and what I'm talking about. We'll start this off around 7 p.m. Eastern time. Like I said, the frozen precipitation line is just north of Boston. I think regardless, it's going to start snowing pretty good in southern New Hampshire. Vermont's already snowing in areas of upstate New York State. And we keep this going. And listen, it's going to struggle to have any frozen precipitation for southern areas and southeast areas of Massachusetts all night. We're going to get into about midnight at this point. And I really think sometime around midnight, you could switch to some heavy wet snow in far southeast New Hampshire, far southern sections of Maine. It's obviously still snowing pretty good in New Hampshire and the rest of Vermont and areas of northern New York State. And then, like I said, you could potentially crash to a couple hours of heavy wet snow in Boston. All rain for southeast Mass, and maybe if you're in far northern sections of Rhode Island, maybe a switch to some heavy snow. And I think there'll be a break in the wee hours of the morning, and then maybe as you're waking up tomorrow morning, not much is falling, but then again, heavy snow, moderate to potentially heavy snow starts to develop for most of the state of Maine unless you live in the far northern counties. And it's probably just going to be snowing all morning, snowing most of the day, and then some amplification of precipitation develops with this as the low pressure continues to kind of spin around. And I really think by the time you get to mid to late morning, around midday, you might change to just a burst of snow for several hours into the afternoon and evening hours. And this could eventually make its way all the way down to Rhode Island, southeast Mass, western Mass also. I mean, this could, last all the way through the evening, the overnight hours, and finally it tapers off here. Snowfall between now and Saturday morning, guys. I mean, for Boston, they're only showing 1 inch of snow, but I could see 1 to 3 inches of snow in Boston. But you don't have to go far north, and you see upwards of a foot of snow in certain areas. Southern Maine, anywhere from, you could see anywhere from, 8 to 12, 13, 14 inches of snow. Higher elevations of Vermont, New Hampshire, certainly over a half a foot of snow. And then watch out Mass. We'll see how south this creeps. Certainly if you live in more hillier areas in western Mass, you certainly are going to see more snow. It'll be elevation dependent. There's just, let's hold off. I'm going to talk to you about something here in a second. So let's talk about what's coming. Okay, I just mentioned the winter storm warnings up for these areas. So this system's going to start cranking up, I would say, the middle of the night tomorrow night and a Saturday morning. So Saturday morning, you're waking up in eastern and southeast areas of Colorado to some moderate to heavy snow. It'll be snowing for about the entire western half of Kansas Saturday morning, more than likely, especially the further west you work. Some maybe a rain-snow mix in areas of far northern, definitely not Oklahoma City, but far northwest, western sections of Oklahoma could certainly see a rain-snow mix. We take it to about midday, more widespread snow showing up, just a light to moderate snow showing up for basically the northern to northwest sections of Kansas. Snow showing up for areas of southern Nebraska, areas that didn't get a lot of snow with this first event that just moved through a couple days ago. Maybe this kind of gives you guys a little bit more snow. So this is the European. We keep this rolling, all rain, maybe a little bit of mixing going on in the Ozarks Saturday evening. We'll see. This brings a little band, not a little, but a pretty stout band of some snow into northern Missouri, southern Iowa, as we're getting into late Saturday night. We'll see how much snow that could drop. This eventually makes its way into Chicago. It's cold enough in Chicago for snow. Temperatures are not an issue this time. It's just the fact, are we going to get heavy enough precipitation? So we'll take it all the way out to Sunday morning at this point. And the Euro says maybe some light snows falling in and around the southern Great Lakes region and the western Ohio Valley. We'll switch it to the eastern U.S. and make sure we don't switch to the 18Z Euro. And here comes the system. It's starting to move into the eastern U.S. Ridge is flexing. All rain for the southeast with this system. Getting into this Sunday morning, the 22nd. If I do not mention a timestamp at all, guys, just look up here or look over here. And I got you, and it should get you covered, okay? It might be kind of small on your phone screens or whatever you're watching on, but just focus more so just on the date. And we'll focus more on the actual timing here in the future. But we take it all the way out to midday Sunday. You got a little bit of mixing going on, a wintry mix of ice, snow, and the higher elevations of the southern to central Appalachian Mountains. All snow up here. And this shows some heavier snow starting to develop, maybe into Ohio, but still just the first system I don't think is going to bring much snow to the Ohio Valley. Could be wrong. We'll watch. At the same time, you got a little upper level low feature right here. Cold air aloft might bring maybe sometime Sunday evening a rain-snow mix, maybe some bursts of heavy snow, maybe into northern Arkansas. We'll see what happens. But look at this. The Euro has consistently been the colder model. We'll see who wins out. If the GFS wins out with these storms again, the GFS has been flexing its guns lately so far in January. If it wins out, you got to start to show GFS a little bit more respect because the Euro is sticking to its guns and the GFS, especially with the second storm. Okay, this is the first storm for late weekend to early next week. But the second storm, you will notice a substantial difference. But we're getting into, let's take it all the way to about the middle of the night, Sunday night. Okay, about midnight. New York City, Boston, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia and Baltimore right in here. But look at New York City, just north of town. Not literally just north, but an hour north of town, it's wet snow. Okay, northern New Jersey, potentially wet snow. Snowing like crazy in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Okay, so this is certainly an inland snowstorm or winter storm for you folks. And this has been the consistent theme. The low pressure is actually not that unfavorable at all. That's not really the problem, and I know I kept saying that over and over again last night, but really the low pressure is actually trended to a more favorable route. This is Monday morning, the first storm, low pressure way out here. If you told me there was a low pressure right here and didn't show me a precipitation map, and you showed me that it was January the 23rd, I would tell you would have a big dog winter storm ongoing all along the I-95 corridor for January. But nope, here we are struggling with mixing all rain in the I-95 corridor in the middle of January. Why is that? We're going to talk about why here in a second, because a lot of people are wondering, why in the world are we getting rain up here in January? There's a reason. Okay, but the European gives hope for maybe some backside moderate to heavy snow as this low pressure pulls away. A little bit more cold air gets pulled in behind this low pressure, which typically low pressures do that. They bring their own kind of cold air very temporarily. And this, gives hope. Monday afternoon, the rain eventually changes to a burst of snow at the end, and then this moves on out. Okay, let's switch it back to the central U.S. Here comes our next storm. We'll back it up a little bit. We'll start off Tuesday morning. This shows a major snowstorm in the panhandle of Texas and western Texas. Lubbock, watch out. Amarillo, just one run. 120 hours out. Still got time to change. And look what it does. I mean, it brings some heavy wet snow into areas of Dallas. This would be a huge snowstorm for Oklahoma City, potentially Tulsa. This will bring a big snowstorm, winter storm into areas of Arkansas. So here comes the low pressure right here. There's enough cold air sinking down. You see that L down here. We'll keep this rolling. Here we go. And I mean, we'll stop it here. This is, this is sometime in the middle of the night next Tuesday night, the 25th. I mean, it's snowing like crazy for most of Oklahoma. Snow as far south as Dallas. Not saying this is going to happen. We got to watch. The Euro is consistently colder. And I'll show you how much of a big difference the GFS has with this second system. Low pressure right here. But look at it. It's already cutting. We call this a cutter because it cuts through parts of the country. This isn't even cutting over the Apps anymore like it was last night. This is cutting right over the Mississippi Valley. And we take it all the way out to Wednesday morning. This shows heavy snow into the entire northern half of Arkansas. This brings snow into maybe a brief time area of snow into western Tennessee, western Kentucky. But look at all this snow showing up. This will be a big snowstorm for St. Louis. We keep this going. We'll switch it up to the eastern U.S., and, okay, make sure we didn't switch to 18Z. Here it is. This would be Wednesday midday. This would be a huge winter storm for the southern half of Illinois, almost pretty much all of Indiana. This would bring heavy accumulating snow for Indiana. It shoots the low pressure right through Ohio. Therefore, southern sections of Ohio would probably be rain. But northern sections, heavy wet snow. Same thing with southern Michigan. And then we stop this right here, and this is for next Wednesday evening. Starts off as snow in New York City, even Boston. Heavy snow falling in Pennsylvania, but then quickly the low pressure tracks right over the I-95 corridor, and you switch to all rain as you're getting into Thursday morning, and then, Thursday morning, it's all snow for the interior area. So it looked hopeful, but then it turns to all rain. And then you got a lot of backside cold air and a lot of snow showers flying around, but we got a long way before we even get close to that. The GFS will fly these a little bit quicker. Same kind of deal. This is the first system flying through. This would show a little bit more accumulating snow just for Kansas. This does not make it as far north into Nebraska. Keeps most of the bulk of the heaviest snow in Kansas. But the same thing, you get into Saturday evening, snow flying around in Missouri, southern sections of Iowa. This will bring a little bit of light snow in Chicago as early as, Saturday evening, Sunday morning. And then we'll switch it to the eastern U.S. And first system light right here, just some moderate snow potentially showing up in Indiana Sunday morning. Listen, the GFS is, a little bit colder for the Ohio Valley, but, just doesn't have a ton of precipitation. It's just some light and moderate snow, but this would be a snowy day Sunday for the Ohio Valley if the GFS is correct. And then moisture begins to amplify as you get into Sunday evening. And this is an all-out winter storm for areas of Pennsylvania into New York State. And, it's here it goes. Just rain for the I-95 corridor, some backside precipitation trying to come in to save the day. But this would be an interior northeast snowstorm, winter storm hit for the later part of this weekend into Monday morning. And does the GFS have the same scenario as the European with the backside moisture? It does not. It just keeps it all rain the entire storm. Switch it back to the central U.S. for the next storm. And, the next storm already looks substantially different. Look, this is what the GFS is showing for this next storm. Okay, this is what the European is showing. Let's go on and back it up here, all the way to right here. First off, the timing is totally different. Okay, the GFS looks to be much quicker. This is the GFS at 114 hours Tuesday morning. This is the European for Tuesday morning. It has a snowstorm ongoing in Texas. The GFS has like a strong out looking system, and the low pressure hasn't even cranked up yet. It does show some rain chasing, some cold chasing rain in this area, cold chasing snow. I'm getting my words all mixed up, but you get what I'm saying. Cold chasing moisture, but it looks totally different. Here comes the low pressure cutting. Cold air hasn't really been gotten entrenched into this area yet, but watch what happens. We can go on and switch it to the eastern U.S. at this point. Watch what happens with the GFS with the second system. Low pressure blasting over the areas of the Mid-South, and then it just goes due north. Okay, and this turns into a big winter storm, big snowstorm for areas of Missouri, eastern Iowa, and then the low pressure begins to shift a little bit further as high pressure begins to kind of push it off and suppress it a little bit. So it looks like it's about to cut through the Great Lakes, but then it starts to move over the Ohio Valley. And then look at this. The GFS with the second system would be a major snowstorm for like Chicago, northern sections of Indiana, Illinois, certainly into the entire state of Michigan. And it would be just a drastic rainstorm for most of the Northeast. Totally different than the European with the second storm, right? I hope you might want to have to go back and, go back a little bit, but you can tell the massive difference here. It really is. GFS doesn't even have a good hit for the interior Northeast for the second storm, but this would show a major winter storm for areas of the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes region with this second storm. Then you watch behind it. This is where the brief opportunity comes up for the Southeast, but still nothing really showing up that makes you scream for joy or anything if you're a winter weather fan. With this system, coming in now, the first system's going to drop accumulating snow for Colorado, especially southeast Colorado. Somebody could get, maybe as much as 6 to 8 inches of snow. We'll switch it over to Kansas and look at that. National Weather Service is saying, western Kansas is going to get hit the hardest, especially west central Kansas. But depending on where you are, stick to your local forecast. But, as much as 3 to as much as 6 inches of snow scattered about. But then it lessens a lot once you get into central and eastern Kansas, and things like that. If I flip it and go to Missouri too, we can take a look at Missouri. And, northern areas of Missouri with this first storm certainly could get a couple inches of snow. Southern areas of Iowa, and we take it up to Illinois too, and look at my folks in Chicago with this system. And, this system could dump a couple inches of snow. This first system can dump a couple inches of snow in Chicago, northern Illinois. So, for my folks in Illinois, you might not a plowable snow, but you might get maybe a couple inches of snow. Certainly possible. If we look at all the storms together, okay, here comes the first system, right? That's the signal off the European ensemble. This is the European ensemble. There goes the first system for the central U.S. Here comes the second system for the central U.S. Okay, so this area is going to get hit, going to have the potential to get hit. There's a very south solution with the European ensemble, just based off looking at the European operational. There's a pretty solid run for the state of Oklahoma if you're a winter weather fan. Missouri, it shows most of the state of Missouri getting some snow. There's a really solid signal for northern Arkansas. This is an ensemble run. You look at the eastern U.S. with this, and we have to probably keep rolling a little bit here. The eastern U.S., and we'll go on and just take it out through the entire run, 10 days. Pretty solid signal between now and the 29th of January for the Ohio Valley. I mean, if you're in the Ohio Valley and you're wondering, where has my snow been, Mitch? This is your opportunity. Up here, down here in the Southeast, my viewers in the Southeast, it's just not going to work out for us for these two systems. Not even close. I don't see any kind of miracle happen where suddenly this shifts in a better direction. The only thing we can look forward to is to hope right as that cold air dumps down the last couple of days of January, the piece of energy flies up and we have an opportunity. But we'll discuss that when it comes up, and it's not really coming up on any models. But listen, if you're in the interior areas of the Northeast, you are going to get slammed over the next 10 days. Almost guaranteed, in my opinion. You're going to get a lot of snow. The GFS ensemble, here comes the first system. Okay, decent signal, especially for Kansas. Much more snow showing up on the GFS ensemble for Kansas. About the same for everybody else with this first system. Here comes the second system signal. And, I mean, what's interesting to me with this, and I'm going to have to see if I can get this going a little bit better in time here. We'll go 240 hours out also here. Let's take it 240 hours out. No, let's not go that far. Let's go about 200 hours out. So what's interesting to me is you got a little bit of a signal right here in Oklahoma too, but I guarantee you this is skewed off one crazy model run that's skewing the mean here. But in general, you get the idea. There's an appreciable mean if you're in Missouri, Illinois, maybe even southern Iowa, Indiana, the Ohio Valley in general. I would, if you like snow and you've been complaining about it, I think there's a reason to potentially be excited, especially in the interior Northeast, even the mountains of West Virginia. Maybe even, I think you can get some snow in the mountains as far south as North Carolina and Tennessee with the northwest flow. Kentucky's like a state that's right on the border of something good winter weather-wise if you're a winter weather fan. But they're also on the border of hardly nothing. So big signal for you folks. So last thing we'll wrap this up with, guys, and I'm probably going to use my cursor a little bit. I might not. We'll see. Why are these storms cutting? Meaning, why is there so much warm air? Why aren't we getting a major East Coast snowstorm from my Eastern U.S. fans? So I'll talk to you about why here, and I'll try to explain it the best way I can. So here's our first system. This is an upper trough, upper low. Think of this blue area right here as a low pressure, and that's what it is. It's coming down. This is our first system. This is for later this weekend into Monday. So first off, we'll start right here. It's already starting, here it goes. It's already starting to cut. The reason it is cutting at this point, and therefore bringing a lot of warm air on the coastal regions, is because one, you see, I'm gonna do all this on the fly, guys. You see this right here? This is a little low. You want this back over here in this region right into here. If that was the case, we call that a 50-50 low. If that was there, this would lock in some kind of high pressure right into here. But that's the other issue, is there is no cold high up here funneling in cold air into this storm. I apologize for all these crazy arrows. So you got a low pressure here, but there's no cold air being funneled into it. Also, the high pressure acts as a suppressing mechanism, if you will, and would force this low pressure a little bit further south out here. But that's not the biggest problem because the low pressure is taking that path. So you also have ridging right into here. Okay, so ridging kind of steers like this. So the ridging is hugging the coast. And man, I got a ton of stuff. Let me back all this up. Let's go on and back it up. So you kind of get that, right? So this is the ridge right here, but the flow kind of goes like this. So this is steering this low pressure, well, more so like this. Okay? So this is hugging all up against the coast. We need this to back off. All right? So that's the problem with the first system. No real cold air supply. The steering is terrible. No 50-50 low right into here to lock this storm in place. Okay? So let's go to the second system. What's the problem with the second system? And this is off the European too, which is the colder model. Well, here it comes. This is this piece of energy from the second system digging. The big problem already that you see, to me, is, yeah, you got a tall ridge building into areas of the west and trying to build up into Alaska, but it is way too far west out here. Okay? You need, let's back this up, you need this ridge to be like right into here. Therefore, this energy right here would probably be into here and probably trying to dig down into here, and potentially it could develop, become maybe positively to positive, probably neutrally to negatively tilted. Let's see if we can speak right. Therefore, it would start folding up like that. Now, that's in a perfect world, right? So what's happening is I'm trying to limit the ums, guys. Is this is digging too far west. When this is digging so far west that it's causing the ridge. It's kind of like when you sit on a bed, right? Or say if you got a water bed. I don't know if you guys have ever had a water bed, but if you sit down on the middle of it, it causes the other sides to raise, right? You kind of get what I'm saying? So think of this as a water bed, okay? Somebody sits down right into here, right? That causes, and this is the surface, that causes these areas to raise like that. And that's exactly what's happening. I hope that makes sense. It's like somebody's sitting right in the middle of this water bed, which is right here, causes both sides to raise. So that's kind of what happens in this case. If anybody remembers what happened in February 2021, chances are if you're viewing from Texas or areas of the South, you remember. That trough dug so deeply down into Texas, it caused for the southeast ridge to flex like this. And that's exactly what's happening with the second system. So it's digging down and it's causing for the jet stream to kind of bulk up like this. That's the southeast ridge. So I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to get better with explaining things the best way I possibly can. Of course, I'm not an expert. Not a naturally great speaker either. Having a YouTube channel has definitely helped me with that. But so with the second system, what happens here is it dives so deep down here, causes this ridge to bulk up, to kind of bulge up is the word I'm trying to find. And therefore, immediately, it becomes strong. When a system becomes strong, it tries to immediately move north in general. Kind of like with hurricanes. They always try to turn, because the stronger the system, the more it's going to try to just go further north. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So in general, there's no real high pressure up here helping to suppress this system. You don't have a lot of cold air, guys. At the end of the day, you don't have a lot of cold air. So therefore, this is, again, still working against ridging also. So that's working against that too. No 50-50 low to lock in any kind of high pressure. So cold air tries to come in at the end, but it's just too late. So it's a plenty enough cold air for areas like I just mentioned, the Ohio Valley, things like that. But at the end of the day, it's just too little too late. So I hope that makes sense. You just don't have favorable things. In fact, it's not really a great pattern if you're in the eastern U.S. This is your typical La Nina pattern if you live in the central and the upper plains and things like that, where typically in these kind of patterns and La Ninas, y'all get a lot more snow than everybody else. And this is the struggles that La Nina faces with us. And I think we're going to deal with it for most of the winter until we can get some small opportunities and windows to change the game. And I don't know if that's going to happen yet. We just don't know. I'm going to continue to be positive, though, because I love winter weather, and you guys know that. But that's all I got, guys. God bless all y'all. Have a great night. Hope that helped. And I'll be with y'all in the morning.